Now, concerning the term daraba and the term hijin, the problem is with the etymology of these two words. As a matter of fact, the term hijin in Arabic has got different meanings, and the meaning is not, the dominant meaning is not all the time negative. نتحدث في العربية عن الرجل الهجين، وهو الرجل اللي الأب بتاعه عربي والأم أعجمي. So this has nothing to do with any negative interpretation. أو الخيل الهجينة. And at the root of the term hybrid and hijin is a mixture of two different breeds in an attempt to ameliorate the breed itself. So the term hijin is a mixture of things. And when we refer to the Quran as نص هجين لا نمس من قدسية النص، مش هذه الغاية بتاعنا. We simply mean that the Quran has got different breeds. Take for example the term Jahannam itself. It's not an Arabic term, it's Johanan. It comes from Hebrew and it has got a whole story behind it. Take the word Hur. It is not Arabic, and one of the interpretations of this term is that it has got an Aramaic origin. أصل أرامي وتعني العنب. So one of the modern interpretations of حورين هي العنب. أو it is مخرج آخر يقول الفقهاء المودرن is that the term حور refers to an entity that is neither male nor female. So the whole hypothesis of males being rewarded with females in heaven is discarded. Okay? If we go to the term daraba, we find different uses of this term in the Quran. And Lala Bakhtiar, for instance, made a linguistic research and she came up with new meanings by tracing the history of this term. You might say that Leila Bakhtiar, after all, is not an Arabic linguist. And this is the easy answer we usually give. But if you have a look at the internet, we have also a modern Arab Muslim faqih, and the article is entitled what's the name of the prophet? Job. Job never, the title is Job never beat لم يضرب أيوب زوجته قط, because the interpretation of beating wives is based on this mythology. Job being married to different women, he got very sick, all his wives abandoned him except for one who was faithful to him, and she went to work out to get money, and then Satan came down and he told him that your wife betrayed you, and the proof is that they cut her hair, whereas in reality she did not find anything else to do except cutting her hair and selling it to get money. So instead of being rewarded, she was beaten. And all this is just a side interpretation of the Quran. This leads us to the question of regarding the Quran, إن أنزلناه بلسان عربي. So the whole بقرآن عربي. The whole idea has to be reviewed. What is it meant by this? Since the Quran itself includes a great percentage of words that are not Arabic, and that even the fuqaha in early Islam were struggling to find their meaning. And as a matter of fact, think of the word ustubraq. What does it mean? Does it have any Arabic etymology? All right. How to get out, going back to the idea of, to the Quranic verse of cutting the thief's hands. The problem is that we are having an epistemological problem with the verse. How in the 21st century are we going to cut off the thief's hand, which we think is a harsh thing to do? There have been different interpretations. One of them is to take the verse in its historical context. And the Prophet Muhammad himself cut the thief's hands only once. And it was because this thief committed the crime of stealing the, I'm not sure about it, stealing the horses or the ibil of somebody else, which represent the life of the Bedouins at that time. But in the 21st century, where things have changed and where we are having courts, we should change of perspective. So, you may take the interpretation.
The question was about the translation.
The translation, right. Well, the translation, it did not translate, the Piaxal did not translate the verse by giving another word. He kept to the meaning of cutting the hands. And this is in harmony with the rest of the verse. But the new idea is in the introduction to this translation, and in the appendix he provides, where he gives a new interpretation to this verse if we take it into its historical context.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, Silanur, as an answer to your question about how do Arab Americans deal with the issue of identity, especially here, if we look at Muslims and Christians, I would say it's during the 80s that the Arab American community became considered itself as an ethnic group, of course, that has certain commonalities and that expresses certain solidarity, and that they had this interest in like coming together like a community, which is hyphenated Americans like the Indian Americans and Italian Americans, etc. What draws attention actually, what is interesting, is this question of religion precisely. Because Christian Arab Americans, we can say that they have somehow guarded against the gross misconceptions against Arabs. Because it's always politics which creates the schisms between the two. So they are in a way guarded against, so they have a way exit whenever there is a backlash like the 9/11 events and wherever some terrorist acts. They say, okay, we are Americans, but we are Christian, we are not Muslim. So they are shielded against all of these misconceptions and stereotypes. Muslims, on the other hand, and still to this day, keep fighting and resisting all of those, misconceptions and stereotypes that you have the impression that they are still not going, they are still here. So this is actually the major difference. Sometimes they have this kind of solidarity as well, a Muslim group or American Arabs, because as an American Arab community, sometimes they face this, repulsion and this misconception. But when we look at certain political events and when there is this stamp or this light, in particular, put on Islam, there is a kind of schism. So this is how they deal with it. Thank you. Then, maybe, Haji, did you ask me something? No, it's just a comment. Haji, okay.
Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
Well,